So you said something. You said uh, it is something that the profit first is guaranteed to make sure that you will have profits. I think or something like that.
Hmm.
Uh, I it was interesting that you said that because I've never really thought about that way, and I think most people might think, well, isn't all accounting designed that way?
No,
So what would you say to that?
it's not. Because what happens traditionally in accounting, we think revenue minus expenses equals profit. With profit first, we're switching that to say revenue minus profit equals expenses. And with profit first, you're putting money into the profit account first, hence the name profit first. And we're not touching that.
I love it. So I believe you'd worked with a boutique law firm where the revenue had soared 40%. And then, uh, however, their take home profits had actually decreased substantially. And so you talk a lot about growing versus scaling.
Hmm.
And so if you look at the DNA of your average law firm
Hmm.
that's successfully scaling, what's the key difference in how they think and operate day to day?
Okay, so I think the growing firm is just thinking about getting more clients, while the scaling firm is thinking about scaling the practice, getting more employees, getting more offices, things of that nature. I really feel like people that are, I feel like below a million, you're really more in the growing phase. Over a million in gross revenue, now we're talking about scaling.
Right. Yeah, it is an interesting difference. For me, it feels like growing is more just taking on expenses almost,
Mhm.
where, yeah, you're getting bigger,
Mhm.
but are you really making any more money? And that is
Right.
interesting, something that I've seen over the years where, I mean, even I kind of went through it where we took on just too much overhead,
Mhm.
and we were growing, growing, growing. We're like, oh, we're making more money, and
Mhm.
then started to see the profits decrease. We're like, okay, wait a second, let's put the brakes on. Let's pump the brakes for a second,
Mhm.
but because it is really enticing. There's things I call like ego numbers. Like I feel like revenue is an ego number, but
Mm.
profit is great. Like you want profit, right?
Mhm.
Revenue doesn't mean jack if you're not making money.
Right.
Another ego number might be like, oh, the number of employees. That's something
Mhm.
really big with law firms. I've seen where like
Mm.
it's an ego number. I got
Right.
to have 50 employees. Like,
Mhm.
well, do you? I mean, does it?
Right.
Or like, do you want to be broke? I mean, like,
Right.
do you? You don't really need that many employees.
Right.
Maybe you do if you're growing that fast. But are there other ego numbers that you can think of that maybe like lawyers or companies in general focus too much on?
I think you really hit it on the head, but I think that the important fact that I want to talk about here are that there are discretionary expenses versus necessary expenses. And as a profit first professional, but also a tax planner, I have to play both parts. So yes, I want you to have a profitable firm, but I also don't want you to overpay the government, right? So let's figure out ways to create let's figure out ways that you can expense things that may be discretionary. You don't necessarily have to, and that will give you long term benefits. So, for instance, let's just say a law firm is looking at we're projecting to have $100,000 in profit at the end of the year, and that's going to give them a certain tax liability. Or if they sponsor 5 organizations at 20,000, that will give them the visibility that they need to get between 10 to 50 clients next year. Let's go ahead and do that sponsorship. It's not something that you have to do, but it will lower your taxable income and it will have a more long-term effect. That's the good thing about having higher profits. It allows you to pay for those more discretionary things that provide more long-term benefits. Because a lot of people, when they are faced with expenses or investments, they don't think, am I going to get a short term? Am I going to see the results in the short term, in the long term? And so when I'm working with clients, that's one of the conversations that we have as we're reviewing their numbers.